All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Continuing the discipleship study according to Matthew. So we're in Matthew chapter 11. Let's see what we find. Matthew chapter 11, verse 1 to 2. It says, "Now it came to pass when Yahusha finished commanding his 12 disciples that he departed from there to teach and to preach in their cities. And when John had heard in prison about the works of Messiah, he sent 2 of his disciples and said to him, 'Are you the coming one, or do we look for another?'" What can we get from there?
I know for me, are we raising hands or are we?
Yeah, no, jump right in. It's a small group. Yeah.
For me, what stands out is the fact that it says, my translation says, and it came to be when Yahusha ended instructing his 12 Talmidim. So it's almost like there's this feeding and this training and this gathering that he's been doing up until this point. And now he's going out to teach and proclaim, which there was a gathering, and now there's a doing or a showing. And I think we were talking about that last week, like when he gave them the authority over clean spirits. And now they're still following him, but he's going to teach in their cities to the people that they know. I think it's interesting that it's, I'm going to your house. We're not going to all these strangers. We're going to people that know you, know your past, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult. And then bringing in Yehukanan in this passage and the fact that he sent his Talmudim, I don't know if that's showing that, eventually that's where we want to get to, is having, our own discipleship. Because Yah is very intentional in creating 2 people and joining one flesh, and then there being a legacy or someone to carry it on. So that's just what stands out to me.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I see here definitely same thing as you. Here's the transition happening now, because before the disciples were given power to cast out devils, right? We read that in Matthew, but not to preach and teach yet. But now here is the time where they're actually being commanded to go out to preach and to teach.
Are they teaching, or is he still teaching at those?
I believe it's Yahusha. I know it depends on your translation and how it's worded, but mine in verse 1 says, "Now it came to pass when Yahusha finished commanding his 12 disciples." What did he command his disciples? I'm seeing it as what he's about to command his disciples is that he departed from there to teach and to preach in their cities. That's how I see Yahusha as commanding them to depart and to preach in their cities. Preach and teach in their cities. I don't know. It depends on your translation, how it's worded.
Well, I wonder too, because even though it says here that it came to pass that when he finished commanding his 12 disciples, he departed from there to teach and preach in the cities. But in Matthew 9:35, it also says that he went about in all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. So this is not the first time he's gone out to the different cities. So is he saying that because now the disciples can go, or because he's obviously already been going?
That's how I see it. I see that first Yahusha was modeling it. He was demonstrating it. He was showing how it's done. And so they get to observe, they get to watch, they get to hear. And then as he's obviously, we're not reading through all this, but all the teachings, right, that he has with his disciples, all the red letters is everything that he teaches them. But I'm sure there's this teacher-student mentoring going on where he's teaching them. Like, you kind of have the public works, the public preaching, what's happening outside, but then you have the intimate inside debriefing. Let's talk about it. Let me teach you some things. So I'm sure there's a point in time which we don't. I wish we can get a little bit more details on these, but that's why I believe that there's liberty here for a shepherd to come up with some type of when would be the appropriate time to send people out. I think shepherds have the liberty to operate in the Yahuwah given authority that they have been given to determine when a person is ready to start going to that next stage. So at some point, what I'm seeing the difference between chapter 9 and what you mentioned in chapter 11 is that now he's given them the authority to go out and preach and teach because he feels they're ready, you know.
And I like how you said there's like an inner debriefing, because the meat that's in 10 is all about like preparing them. It's a preparation before they go. And the distinction that he's making is in their cities. In the previous chapters, they're in all these other places. And I'm sure some of the people may be from those cities, but it says teach and proclaim in their cities. And all of 10 is talking about what your brother's going to do to you, you know, your mom and your father. And like, it's all of this intimate stuff. It's not the parables. I mean, he's still speaking in parables, but it's not relating to the sheep or to the flock. It's more personal. Even if you think about your situation, Brother D, like everything that you've experienced, those people who come up under you, who are aligning themselves with the way that you've exemplified your life, like it's just human nature to look at the person that you're following, and the way that you react to certain things, people are going to take that same reaction. So we have to be able to use our personal experiences. And Yahusha knew he was going to be persecuted, and all of these things were going to happen because he's teaching and preaching the word. He's like instructing them and preparing them before they go out and teach all of this stuff that's going to happen to them in verse 10. So I think that, I think that's more of the instructing that he's telling them. It's almost like a preparation of what's going to come by following me and going out and teaching in your cities. These people are going to come against you because they, like I said, they know your past. They know, I mean, even now, I don't know about anyone else, but some people respect the walk that I have, and then other people are still condemning and judging, and no matter how much good I do or how silent I am, they're still bringing up old stuff. So I think he's preparing them for what's to come.
Yeah, very good. And he did command them to teach or to preach, I should say, before this in chapter 10. Verse 6, but you can see the progression. There's like, he gives them authority to heal, and then he gives them authority to preach. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, and to do miracles. And now he's giving them authority to teach and preach. So I think teaching and preaching, there is a distinction. I think there's a reason why these two words are separate. There is definitely a distinction. I would see preaching as more like here's probably one example. Practical example. When you're teaching, you're probably engaging your students and, getting involved in discussion, while preaching is more like you're just going and just sharing a message. Like I can just hear Yahukanan, the immerser in the wilderness, preaching, and he's just like elevated and just yelling out, telling people to repent and all that. But teaching would be more like Yahusha sitting down, right? He sits down, gives his little sermon. People are engaged. His disciples are engaging with him, asking him questions. That's kind of a little distinction. So now he's given in chapter 11 his disciples the authority to go preach and to teach. So now they're organizing. They're going around. They're organizing studies. They're organizing, getting people together, sitting down with them and answering their questions and going through, breaking things down. That's what I'm seeing here. Let's move on to the next one. I got Matthew chapter 12, verse 48. All right. And if you want, I mean, we can probably go a little more in 11. So we ended on verse 3, right? They're asking him, are you the coming one, or do we look for another? So chapter 11, verse 4, Yahusha answered and said to them, go and tell John the things which you hear and see. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers cleanse, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up, and the poor have the good news preached to them. And blessed is he who is not offended because of me. So I think another thing I mentioned in here that I wasn't going to heavily emphasize, but we do need to believe in miracles. We need to believe in spiritual warfare. This needs to be the normal part of us preaching the good news. It has to be a package deal. We have to go in and expect that people are spiritually sick, and that could be manifested in many different ways. Okay? Everybody might not be possessed by a demon, but everybody, if they're not following Yahuwah, they're being led by Hasatan. There's just no other way. So the spiritual walls and blindness and scales can only come down through prayer and fasting and, operating in that authority to break those walls down. Because other than that, you'll be preaching and trying to teach, and it's going to fall on deaf ears, So this stuff is important. I can't wait to get back into it and start trying to demonstrate some of this with power and authority.
I have a question. It says here, the disciples, John sent 2 of his disciples. I wonder if his disciples were wondering, how come your disciples are going out teaching or preaching when maybe John, like you said, John was always preaching and not teaching. Maybe he never gave his disciples the authority to go and do. They only kind of just followed him. And so they may have come confused as to, oh, now your disciples are out there teaching and preaching, or you're doing something different than they learned. And maybe that was part of their question, is that they had never seen that before. I don't know.
Yeah, so this whole discipleship thing was in existence before Messiah came on board. Let's just admit that. There's been this whole Talmudim culture that, I didn't really bring the foundation of this for this study because I didn't think it was too relevant. I think it's a given that discipleship was occurring already before Messiah had his disciples. So John having his disciples is proof already that this was already in existence. So people having students, people having people that wanted to, be like teachers, be like the rabbis, this whole culture, it has a lot of history to it. You don't see it as much in the Tanakh. You'll see Talmud, like a taught one, the word taught one, Talmudim or Talmud or something like that. You'll see that like once or twice in the Old Testament, from what I understand. But you see the concept, you see the principle throughout Scripture. Like my wife always brings up, who's the one that always, Elijah, and you see this mentoring and bringing up people in the priesthood and the Levites. Yeah, so there's a lot of examples, but it seems like there's John had his before the manifestation of Yahusha's ministry. Even though I wouldn't doubt that Yahukanan kind of knew this. They were born around the same time, and when the two mothers met while Yahukanan and Yahusha were in the womb, when they came together, there was movement in the womb, So there was a connection between Yahukanan. They were cousins, I believe, right? Were they cousins? They were cousins. Yeah, kin relatives. But there was a connection between these two, Yahukanan and Yahusha. So I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of knew of them. But why didn't the disciples really fully understand?
Well, what I meant is that we always read that we don't know, there might be more, that John did all the baptizing. But now Yahusha is giving his disciples the permission to do the same. So maybe they didn't have that authority. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they saw a different role. Yes, that's what I meant. Yep,
absolutely. All right, cool. Yeah, I misunderstood your question. I went to a whole nother.
I should have been like, can you come back?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went on. I don't know what I understood from your question. I thought I understood your question.
Yes, you did.
I thought your question was, how come they didn't understand what John understood?
No.
Way off.
Okay. Just like, excuse me, not. Can you like?
All right. Well, anyway, there's the answer to that question.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Chapter 12, verse 48 to 50. And let's see. I'm going to start at 46. It says, while he was still talking to the multitudes, behold, his mother and brothers stood outside seeking to speak with him. Then one said to him, look, your mother and your brothers are standing outside seeking to speak with you." But he answered and said to the one who told him, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" And he stretched out his hand toward his disciples and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my mother and sister and mother." My brother, sister, and mother. I think that was a good passage. Anybody got anything they want to say before I give a last word on that? Milo, go ahead.
It shows the family dynamic, that those who, this defines who is our family. Like, obviously we have blood family, but those that are truly our blood family are those who are under Yahusha. And so we can tell a disciple by who their father is. And I'm not talking about the discipler, I'm talking about Yahuwah being their father. And that together brings this family dynamic. So I don't think you can be disciples unless you actually have Yahuwah and doing his will together. So I think it's a distinguishing mark of those who are actually following him.
All right. Jeff Sakaya, go ahead.
Yeah, in the list, brother, sister, and mother, father is not in there. I like how he makes sure to mention everybody else but the father, because there's only one. And so he says, "Who are my brother, my mother, and my sister," but leaves out father. I thought that was kind of interesting.
What does this passage say about discipleship?
Oh, it says that I don't listen. I'm sorry.
I'll give my take. Oh, Ezzy, you got something? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's very applicable.
Mm-hmm.
That just like he said, I don't know if he said it already or if it was in I think it's in the previous chapters when he says, don't bring anything, don't gather anything, leave everything behind, let the dead bury the dead. I think that's fire. I think it's very applicable because we through our own testimony have felt like our family has somewhat been divided, or through this walk of discipleship, because ultimately a disciple is someone who's learning, and we're learning how to live Torah. We're learning how to please our Father. We're learning our true family customs. So there's this aspect of having to leave your earthly family behind, but the Father is still giving us a spiritual family who are the people who do the will of our Father. In chapter 10, Matthew 10:34, it says, "Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword, for I have come to bring division, a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." But when you're doing the will of the Father, like he said in, I think is it in Exodus, that he will open up the treasures of heaven and everything that you touch will be fruitful and your land will be prosperous. He's still giving us, he's still adding to us what we need and what we seek anyway, by following after him, by being a disciple of his word and truly doing the will of our Father, which is sharing the gospel and saving souls, that he's still giving us a family. So I just think that that's interesting. The Father always provides after things are taken away.
All right. I should have went back a little bit. I'm looking at this chapter right now. There's a lot of stuff in here that I missed in my, so pardon me, I'm gonna have to fix the notes. Chapter 12, verses 1, just to kind of bring, because I'm trying to see where this multitudes, right? He's sitting with these multitudes, and I kind of want to see how that all developed. So if I start at chapter 12, verse 1, it says, "At that time, Yahusha went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples were hungry and began to pluck heads of grain and to eat." Right? And we know the rest of the story. The Pharisees saw it and said, "Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful during the Shabbat." What I want to see here is, okay, on a Shabbat, they're outside. They're not indoors, they're traveling, they're walking about or whatever. And his disciples are with him, right? But if we fast forward, so that's important to discipleship too. That's important. I think even, I point to myself, I developed this culture last year, this fellowship where we're stuck inside the house from 10 a.m. to the sun going down. And I don't think that's really, something's going to have to change. It's going to have to be some spontaneity, some kind of change up on that, because the Shabbat's a perfect day to go out. And once the weather gets, warm again,
frolicking the lilies.
You never know. It's a good opportunity to go out and preach the gospel. I know we did it a handful of times last year, but expect that from this community here. That's what I got from that. And then verse 9, it says, now when he had departed from there, he went into their synagogue. Okay. And behold, there was and I'm not sure if this was still, this is still on the Shabbat. So look, on a Sabbath, he goes to the religious institution, the religious building, the corporate building where people gather. I honestly don't feel comfortable walking into a Jewish synagogue, okay? I'm not there. But I don't even want to go into a Christian church, but I'm being challenged by this. This is challenging me that we might have to see if there's any church services on a Shabbat in our local city right here, in our local town, see what their schedules are, what they got going on. I might have to pop in there, But another thing that helps Yahusha is there's already this reputation, right? It's not like nobody knows him and he's just walking in. So there was some kind of reputation building up to this where he can walk in. I'm sure some people already know who he is. So that's something we're going to have to work on, how to build that relationship or reputation. I'm not sure, but it does challenge me. I'll be honest. Verse 9. So when he departed from there, he went into their what? He went into the.
I was just gonna say he didn't go in with no blowhorn.
Right. Repent. I did that, by the way, on YouTube. Okay, it's not hidden. I went into churches with a friend of mine with a bullhorn, and we got kicked out. It's called what is it called? Awakening. I think I called the video "The Awakening" out of the church. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Now, when he had departed from there, he went into their synagogue, right? And behold, there was a man who had a withered hand. He went to heal somebody. And they asked him, saying, who had a withered hand, and they asked him, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? That they might accuse him. Then he said, what man is there among you who has one sheep, and if it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will not lay hold of it and lift it out? Of how much more value then is a man than a sheep? Therefore, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath? Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. And he stretched it out, and it was restored as whole as the other. Then the Pharisees went out and plotted against him, how they might destroy him. This is very interesting here. So Yahusha goes in. No, I'm sure we've read some stuff here of Yahusha and Yahuchanan calling out these Pharisees and scribes, right? Not so nice words. But here he doesn't really go in. He chooses to go in and to do a good deed, to do a miracle. Again, and this is bringing credibility and to his reputation and his ministry and the message that he preaches, right? And his authority. Diana?
I was thinking, Corey, that was the time everybody went to the synagogue. There was no separation of different churches and synagogues, and they didn't have the Jewish. Everybody was the same, so it was very easy. And it was in a small town to go to probably one synagogue where everybody went. So I think that to go to a synagogue now with Jewish people, who is another whole new thing, and go into a church with Christians, you can't go in with blowing your shofar or something like that. But you could be outside when services is over, and you could hand out something.
I'm all about that. I definitely want to do it.
And that's not throwing it at them, but at the same time, the people have come together. They feel like they're filled with the Spirit. They feel like they've heard the word of Yahuwah. And you're telling them, yes, but not really, not the way you should be. They may be more open, but no, I wouldn't go. And it doesn't say that he went in and stormed the synagogue, and the only time he did that was when they were selling in the temple and on the Sabbath. So I think there's a way to do it and still reach the people, because they're all there at the same time, and some of them may walk out feeling like, what, something is missing, but I don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah. On the so I'm not against going in with a blue horn. Let me just be very honest. I've done my history on reformations, okay? Christian reformations. And a lot of the reformations that took place, like the Protestant Reformation, for example, happened by violent protests. People standing up and interrupting teachings and sermons and yelling and screaming and getting kicked out. This is how the Protestant Reformation was able to thrive and make changes from the Catholicism to the more Protestant movement. So, I'm very careful with that, not to say that not to do something that seems rude or unorthodox. But from what we see in this story, Yahusha decided to do a more stealth and a kind deed. He came in to be as gentle as a dove, right? And healed somebody without really raising ruckus. And that's something to consider. Oh, I wanted to say on my YouTube channel, so I did some different approaches. I did one go with a bullhorn and all that, and then I did a video where we were actually holding signs up. We made some signs that was real simple, like talking about like Matthew 5, chapter 17 and 19. The law hasn't been abolished. It says something like, "Did your pastor ever tell you that the law hasn't been abolished?" Right? And we stood outside. We were very nice. We're very respectful, saying good morning, good afternoon to people, and read your scriptures. And we're engaging with them. Did you guys know that the Torah is not done away with? And there were some people that actually came over to us, and it's on video. We're actually dialoguing and conversing with them. And the pastor actually came out from that church and actually exchanged numbers with me, because he actually really wanted to sit down with me, to talk. And we did. We followed up. We went to a Panera Bread, and we had a good dialogue. But I ended up moving out of that. That was in St. Louis, Missouri. So I moved back to New Jersey. But that was like, that to me was I like that. I definitely did. I like that. I like that there was engagement. We were engaging with people. People were coming to us, and we were breaking things down with them. We were having a conversation with them. That was really cool. The bullhorn thing, that's like, I got to be in a certain kind of mood for that, to know I'm not expecting a good result. I'm not expecting anybody. I'm going in there to blow the alarm, to sound the alarm, and whoever hears it. Whoever doesn't, does it. Like it's a drive-by, really. It's just a drive-by. But I do like, if I was to choose what I would do, especially with my wife, I could definitely see, I would like to do the more like the signs, and then maybe, follow up, right? Get people's contacts and follow up with people. So, but you're right, Daniel, like the culture we're living in today is different from over there, but it could still be done. But we have to invest our time. There's no other way. We have to invest our time. We got to get in there. But good point. Let's keep going, because I want to develop going into where we were. I don't know why I didn't write these scriptures down, because it
I
is.
had something to add.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Ezzy.
So when he is basically rebuking them by saying in 11, "What man is there among you who has one sheep, and if it falls into a pit on the Shabbat, shall not take hold of it and lift it out?" Relating it to discipleship, I think, just like we were saying, that passage about your house being built on sand versus building on a rock, I think you have to be secure, in the gospel and what's righteous and what's not righteous when you're in the midst of these people, when you're going out teaching and preaching, because people are going to come against you. People are going to persecute. People are going to try to sow those tares, sow that doubt. But Yahusha is standing on, what is right to do on the Shabbat, and healing someone is considered right. But yet the Pharisees are still leaving to go and take counsel against him anyway. So a scripture that comes to mind, 2 scriptures, is in Mark 6. He says this earlier in Matthew 10, but in Mark 6, 11, it says, and any place that does not receive you or listen to you, when you leave there, shake off the dust under your feet as a witness against them. Truly, I say to you, it shall be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. When you're going out teaching and preaching, according to Torah, those that, don't receive it or want to persecute or whatever, those I think are just people that you're just going to have to, shake off the dust, so to speak. And later on, he does leave that place after he heals the people, after he's given them a word. But it also makes me think of my favorite passage in 1 Corinthians 11, when it talks about divisions among you, so that the approved ones might be revealed among you. In the same aspect of him rebuking these Pharisees, he could also be bringing clarity for the individual, the multitudes that are there watching, because everybody is watching. I know the Pharisees are brought out in this passage, but at the end of the day, he's still like a walking testimony, or all these people are witnesses to the fact that he just healed someone, which is still confirming prophecy. So there's 2 things that I see. Number one, you have to be secure in who you're following and what the ultimate purpose is, which is teaching and bringing people to the light, but also not to be hindered by prosecution or what people are going to say about you in the places that we go. Because we're going to be going in places where there are divisions, but we're looking for those approved ones, or those ones that Yah has chosen. So
we're going to places that don't observe Torah. We're going to places that believe the Torah has been done away with, and we're legalistic. A lot of Hebrew roots now. It has a bad name on it. Black Hebrew Israelites. So we're going to be named everything in the book. Some people might think we're Muslim. But yeah, we got to go in there secure. What I got, you provoked a thought in me, Ezzy, about this, is a little tip here on discipleship. We should come up with a repertoire of questions, because Yahusha always asks questions. I like that he was very strategic that way. I tend to not be very strategic. I'm very I just let things come out. So you take it, you receive it. But I think we should come up with a list of thought-provoking questions regarding the gospel and the Torah, being observed today, in, faith and works, salvation, things like that. So that would be great. Let's move on, because this is, I don't know why I missed this. This is definitely applicable. So verse 15 now. Matthew 12, verse 15, it says, but when Yahusha knew it, let me finish reading this story in 13. Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. And he stretched it out, and it was restored as whole as the other. Then the Pharisees went out and plotted against him, how they might destroy him. Okay. Verse 15. But when Yahusha knew it, if you can go to these congregations and do some miracles, that's a big deal. To me, that's a big deal. That's very, very helpful. But, so I would definitely say, let's be challenged. Let's be challenged on this, man, whether we're praying for people to be healed or casting out devils. There's a whole lot of demons up in these churches, man. There's people possessed by all kinds of stuff. But if not, do a good deed, do a good work. Or if anything, preaching the gospel. What greater miracle is there than somebody's eyes being open to the good news? Give me a second. With that being said, let's go to verse 15, 12, 15. But when Yahusha knew it, he withdrew from there. So he knew that the Pharisees were going to plot against him. Either the word got around, or he just, because he knows man's hearts, he's Elohim, right? So, so when Yahusha knew it, he withdrew from there. He's not scared. That's wisdom. So sometimes you're going to have to move on, right? You go, you do a work, you preach the gospel somewhere, you get some results, the leaders hate you. Hey, maybe you went there for that one person. Maybe you went there for those two people. Whatever. Go on, go somewhere else. But when Yahusha knew it, he withdrew from there. And great multitudes followed him. Who's that multitudes again? So the great multitudes followed him, and he healed them all. Now I'm sorry, healing it. I'm not Yahusha in this way, okay? I'm gonna pray for healing. I'm gonna be very intentional. I've had my, those of you who know me know my handful of experiences with demons. As he's encountered some herself, I've had my own encounters, praying for people and seeing them bleeding from their face, and then not finding where the blood is coming from, their voices changing, sounds of snake rattling in the apartment, finding idols everywhere. I've had my experiences. And I haven't done a lot of it, and I don't claim to be somebody that has the gift to heal, but I have faith, and I still believe that healing is done today. And I do believe that demons can be cast out today. So with that being said, we should be adding that into the repertoire. So here's the multitude. Again, I think there's a distinction between the disciples and this multitude. There's people hearing the preaching. There's people hearing the message. There's people seeing the good works, and they want to follow this guy, okay? For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you would be considered a multitude to me. I got like 4,000 something subscribers on this channel. I got a couple hundred people that watch the videos sometimes. It almost gets up to 100 sometimes, whatever. These are people that are listening. These are the subscribers. These are people that want to hear more. So you're not my disciple. You're not somebody that's in my intimate circle like some of the people in this group. You're more of an observer, a listener. And when we transfer this to the physical, real world, when we're going out into our city, and we're preaching the gospel to people, be mindful of the surroundings. There should be people around, hopefully. Doesn't have to be, but, if you're going into a congregation and you want to spark up some conversation, expect there to be a crowd. So these multitudes are following, right? And he healed them all. Yet he warned them not to make him known. Look at that. That's very interesting. Sometimes it's all discernment. It's all discernment. This isn't like do it every time. No, that's because you obviously see the opposite for those of you who've read the Gospels already. But at this particular moment, he warned them not to make him known. So don't tell anybody about what happened. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet. Behold, my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he will declare justice to the Gentiles. He will not quarrel nor cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, a smoking flax he will not quench, till he sends forth justice to victory, and his name Gentiles or nations will trust. So I'm not going to get into that topic. Long story short here, there's going to be times where he's doing good works and everybody's not going to be hearing about it. It's meant to be for a certain group of people. And so he did that to fulfill that prophecy. Let's continue. Then one was brought to him who was demon possessed. You see this now? He's got this reputation where people are now bringing people to him. So it could be similar to preaching the gospel now. So when you want to preach the gospel or you want the gospel to be preached, who better to deliver the message than our teacher? So, hey, I can get you started with my testimony and share, but I can't really articulate a lot of the details of the gospel yet because I'm still trying to really process it and break it down. So let me introduce you to my teacher, my shepherd. You know what I mean? But I don't want to take away from the actual. This is talking about healing. Okay, so this is very powerful. Man, Yahuwah be gracious and merciful to us. I would love to I would love to see this happening more. And I'm encouraged by reading this. I'm encouraged. Like, I think many times I avoid spiritual warfare. I avoid praying. And I think that's a big hindrance. You know, like I was telling y'all off record, I'm going to be praying every meeting we get together, whatever gathering I'm at, I'm going to be praying against demonic forces and principalities. I'm going to be praying against anything negative, anything unrighteous and wicked that might be trying to come up against what Yahuwah is doing. We need to do that like at all times, because Satan is always at work. So here we go. He healed him. He healed him so that the blind and the mute man both spoke and saw. And all the multitudes were amazed and said, could this be the son of David? All right, so now you see by the works, right? Not just the preaching, but the works following. People are starting to make connections here. It's not just some guy doing a lot of good magical tricks. No, this dude is of Torah. He's of the scriptures. And in our context, right, we're going to try to preach to Christians. We want them to see, like, we're not some religion that's like against the scriptures. We love the scriptures. We are actually 110% for the scriptures. And we need to help these people to see that. Now, when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler. So you're always going to have the doubters, right? You're going to have the Pharisees, usually the leaders. It's usually the leaders. It's usually the ones that have, a position to protect, that they're going to come up against, what is righteous and good.
I think it's also a test of faith too, based on the scriptures that you read, especially when he says that he was fulfilling the prophecy. He shall not strive nor cry out, nor shall anyone hear his voice in the streets. I think that's an aspect of faith. And a lot of times people in power and positions, they have very little faith because they're trusting in their power and their position. But it says in verse 21, and the nations shall trust in his name. By having faith in what you're seeing, or gaining faith through what you're seeing, these people, these multitudes are seeing him do certain things, and probably things that he is saying are probably resonating within themselves on things that other people don't even know. I know a lot of us, we may not talk to each other every day, but yet we're on the same wave. We're all moving in that ruach. And when he says, I shall put my ruach upon him and he shall declare right ruling to the nations, I think there's this inner conscience of what is right and what is wrong. When you're seeing someone being healed and you're seeing this person walking according to the teaching and he has a certain following, there's a level of faith that's building up to where now you might believe that certain people can be healed, and let me bring this, to him to see, what he can do. It's building up this faith. But he also shows where those in power have so little faith. And I think that is the core of what the teaching and the preaching is. It's giving people faith, giving people hope in the expectation that we're striving for, giving people the accountability of this faith will save you from the things that are prophesied in the end times. And without having faith, you're not going to receive any of this. If you don't believe it, if you don't have the faith in the things that we can't see because the Father is invisible, then it doesn't matter what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what you see me doing. You're going to have your own reasoning in your own mind. So I think there is a reason or an intention behind not speaking out to the multitudes or people not hearing everything that's going on, because there's a level of faith that's building up within them, and Yah knows our heart. I mean, that's what's really what knowing our heart is knowing our thoughts, knowing our intentions, and not just doing things to be seen or for the acceptance of other people. And I think that's why people brought those weightier matters to him, because they have a level of faith and they're trusting in him. So
praise Yah. Yeah, what I also see here is he's not spending a lot of time with these teachers. You don't see him investing time and to try to break things down to them. His focus is on these sheep. His focus is on the multitudes. His focus is on these people to heal them and to, do his business with them. But now when they engage him and they try to come up against him, then he has a couple words. Now when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of demons. But Yahusha knew their thoughts and said to them. So his only engagement with them is when they try to engage him. But he does a little engagement and then he goes back to doing the good works and he goes back to preaching and teaching. You know what I'm saying? He's not wasting his time with these guys. But he says every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. It's important. Unity is important. And every city or house divided against itself will not stand. That's important. Regarding doctrine, you want to talk about discipleship? Our doctrine's we can't be divided against ourselves. Division is a cancer. And we're trying to get better at this. We're trying to be balanced in what we can agree and disagree on and have discussion. But there's some doctrines that we're gonna have to be in alignment with. We can't be divided against itself. But in this case, he's talking about casting out demons. Let me not over spiritualize this. He's talking about casting out demons, right? And he's being accused of casting out demons by Beelzebub. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself will not stand. If Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then will his kingdom stand? And if it is cast out, if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your sons cast them out? So this is really important to me. Discipleship. Right? I'm talking about discipleship. I'm not trying to get off on a different topic. Because part of discipleship, guys, I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting more convicted as I'm reading this right now. Like we got to pray for healing. We got to pray for demons to be cast out, right? This is something we have to do. We should try it. We got to, the leaders have to, I have to model this. I have to demonstrate this. I got to go back out there and do what I used to do. With the understanding that I have now, and I gotta share this. Oh man, I'm almost losing my thought. What I wanted to share was, okay, so like he just said by whom do you cast out demons? So it's assuming that they were also casting out demons. Okay, this isn't something new that Yahusha came up with. There was healing. And there was some kind of casting out of unclean spirits going on before Yahusha came on the scene. This can be equated to today with Christianity and Christians. I know we don't like to say it. We don't like to admit to it. But when people cast out demons in the name of Jesus and people got healed in the name of Jesus, that healing or that demon being cast out was either real or it wasn't. And I know in my personal experiences, because my handful of experiences, I have 2 experiences using the name Jesus and fully encountering 1, a healing, and 2, demons being cast out in the name of Jesus. Okay. The third encounter I had with my wife present was using the name Yahushua. I didn't even use Yahusha. I used Yahushua because that's what I knew at the time, and Yahweh. Okay. It's not about the pronunciation. It's about the faith. Okay. We have faith in the person. We know these Christians know who they're praying to. When they read this book, they're reading the same book we are. It just might not have the right pronunciations and all that, but they have faith in the right person. So I think this religious person, this heretic here, not religious, because there's nothing wrong with being religious. This prideful leader, this Pharisee here, is not liking somebody else taking their light. That's what's going on here. You're taking the people's attention away from me. Okay? And what does Yahusha say about on Judgment Day? Many will say, Lord, Lord, haven't we cast out demons in your name and done miracles in your name? He's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. So it's not about, at the end of the day, it's not all about casting out demons. That is not the stamp of approval of somebody's salvation. Okay? But it is essential, as we can see here, to discipleship and the ministry of Yahushua HaMashiach. If we're bringing it forth, we should have power mixed with wisdom and teaching and preaching, the power and the authority should be following. Okay. And so I say all this to say this is very relevant. If we're going into Christian churches and they're like, oh, well, there's going to be this showdown, this prophet showdown. Like, well, we did this many miracles. What can you do in the name of who you say? Yahweh, who, what? Yeah, they're going to come with all these.
The true gospel.
They're going to come with all this stuff, right? So, yeah, let me get some of you sick. Let me get some of the people that are sick. Let's let you lay hands on them. And let's wait an hour and see what happens. Let me pray for them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Elijah with the fire and the showdown, stopping the sun and everything. All right, so I say all this to say,
you're so precious.
I say all this to say that we need to operate in this as part of our discipleship. Which we're going to come to some churches that all they do is they stay on their Jesus and their Torahlessness because they're experiencing healings in their churches in the name of Jesus. And if you try to come up in this church with some other name, right? It would be helpful if we can heal somebody in the name of Yahusha. Then we can shut them up and be like, listen, man, I'm not judging you. I'm not saying that you casted that demon out by a demon. I'm not going to say that. You believe in the same person I believe in. Okay? We both believe in the same person. You just don't understand the message in its proper context. And you're misinterpreting his message. But we believe in the same person. So I digress now. Ezzy.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is it makes me think of Moses and the rock, striking the rock the first time, striking it once. And then the next time he had to say all of these things and bring the attention or the authority back to himself instead of the Father. And I think that, when you think of discipleship, you don't want to be like the Pharisees to the point where, whatever, I don't know what method that they're using or whatnot, but for them to question the one that is fulfilling prophecy and saying that he is casting out demons by some other name, it makes me wonder, were they doing it in their own authority, just like Moshe striking the rock, where they, do they have these people looking at them instead of looking at the Father? Because I think Yahusha makes it very clear that it's through the Ruach of the Most High. He's not claiming authority over it. He's giving all authority back to the Father. Mm-hmm. So that's just something to think about. And I love the critical questions because I'm starting to notice that when he engages them, it's not really teaching. He's asking them questions to make them critically think or for them to be a witness against their own selves based on what they say. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Getting a repertoire of questions is going to be real nice. We should start developing some. Make a list. Milo's good at questions. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? I'm going to keep going. So we know the rest of the story, right? But if I cast out demons by the spirit of Elohim, surely the kingdom of Elohim has come upon you. Or how can one enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds a strong man and then he will plunder his house? He who is not with me is against me, and he who does not gather with me scatters abroad. I think that's very relevant, that last part there. You're either for Yahusha or you're not. Go ahead.
That makes me think of, I think we might have read it, when there were others that were casting out demons or baptizing in his name. I forgot. I think they were
casting out demons.
Were they casting out demons? And his disciples were like, Yahushua, tell them to stop. They're not of us. And he's like, those who are for me are not against. But to me, it shows that there are different groups or camps. I'm not talking about necessarily different denominations. I'm saying sometimes this group doesn't roll with this group, but it doesn't mean that they're not disciples. It doesn't mean that they're not brothers or sisters. It's just Yah has given you this vision and unity and running because we're one body, but there's different members, So I think that it just made me think about that. Like there are different, there are going to be different groups, and we see that we start seeing more of our Israelite brothers, especially through social media, growing in different pockets, and that's how Yahuwah's growing us. So I just thought that was interesting.
But he also says, he who is not with me is against me. So if you're not following him, if you're not obeying him, then you're against him. So, and with that instance, we are going to bring that up. I think that was Mark, one of the sisters. I think, one of the sisters this week had emailed me about that question. And we're going to get there about that.
Is Ezzy's hand still up, or you just didn't?
Her hand is down. It was up from last time. There we go. All right, so I'm going to skip a little bit. So we're building up. Verse 33 to 37 is a tree is known by its fruit, right? People are doing good things. And again, this context, there's healings being done. People's eyes are being opened. People are being healed. Demons are being cast out. Again, you know somebody by his fruit. Verse 38, then some of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. So now they're asking for more.
And calling him.
And they called him teacher. Yeah, you want to see his response there. So expect your shepherd or your teacher to rebuke. Expect that. We're doing a lot of good things here, and Yahusha asks questions, but expect sometimes I'm going to get rowdy, and I'm going to rebuke some of these religious heretics. I'm going to rebuke them hard, especially if they hate the Torah. I'm going to tell them, you hate the Torah. And I'm going to tell you what Romans chapter 8 says about those who hate the Torah. You can't please Yahuwah. I don't care how many demons you cast out. You're going to be one of those guys on Judgment Day where he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. You worker of Torahlessness. You worker of lawlessness. Yeah, expect your teacher to expect me. If you're going to be my disciple, if you're going to roll with me, expect me to talk to pastors like that at some point. All right? Not every pastor. I've even had I have some of my conversations on YouTube with Christian pastors. I don't go off on all of them. I only go off on the ones that are showing extreme hatred for the Torah and arrogance about it. Yeah, I'm gonna slice them up real hard.
I think that this is interesting is because here the Pharisees aren't quote unquote against the Torah. These are teachers of the law, right? Mm-hmm. And many times they got offended. I mean, literally walked away to the point where they wanted to kill him or were plotting against him, right? So I think in this discipleship relationship, it's a disciple being able to learn from the teacher and saying, okay, sometimes I have to sit back and say, why in the world did you just go off on that person? Because the teacher had more discernment at that time and saying, I'm looking past what you can see right now. Yeah, they may speak a good game. Yeah, they may know the scriptures, but their heart's actually not in the right place. And that's because the Ruach is the one that's really revealing that. And so the more we mature, the more we can see through that. And I think that is also, it's a dynamic, a beautiful dynamic and a necessary dynamic in a disciple relationship to grow. Okay, not everybody that speaks the word is actually of the word. And I mean, Yahusha himself says, yo, you straight sons of Satan. Like, I'm sure people were like, wait, what? We go to their synagogue, they teach us how they're son of Satan. What? That means I'm learning from them. Like, but then it's like, so I think that dynamic has to come out as well. Like, okay. And I think those can be personal conversations. Like, you said this, why? What were you gathering? And then going into our prayer with it. So I just want to bring that out with that.
Praise yeah. All right, fast forward now. That's where we get to.
Can I say something?
Oh, go ahead. Jump in.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest part though is like you said that you tell them, you're going against the Torah, you're lawless. The problem that I'm finding is people think that the law is done away with. That seems to be the biggest block. I haven't had them think that I'm not worshiping the same Elohim or the same Messiah, but they keep saying, but it's gone away, we're free. And that's the part that seems to stop them. And I think part of it is because they don't want to. They don't want to give up their shrimp and their unclean foods, and they don't want to, celebrate the Sabbath the way it should be. They like the way they have this freedom. And so getting them to that point is going to be hard.
Yeah, it is going to be hard. This ain't going to be easy. But, that's part of counting the cost. And, we got to be very selective on who we invest our time into. So in this case, the multitudes are following Yahusha. So in this context, people should be following me and should be following you when y'all start preaching and teaching. And you know who you can invest to by the ones that follow you. But in the midst of the following, there's going to be those little serpents, those wolves that are in there, okay, that aren't really for you, but they're going to hang out and they're going to last as long as they can and try to do all their little games that the little devils do, okay, gossip and slander. And but that's part of the cost of us doing this kind of work. Other than that, we could just go to work, come home, be entertained, go to sleep, care for our family, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, be entertained, take care of our family, go to sleep, and just not worry about this whole book. Like, why even learn about this book and try to apply it and try to teach other people to? This is a burden. This is a yoke. This is a responsibility. You know what I mean? Believing in this comes with drama. It comes with drama. It comes with pain, because it's like the Matrix. It's like the Matrix. Like, it's just a whole nother world. You start seeing demons in people. You start seeing these demons. People really hate wickedness. And a lot of people don't understand why people behave the way that they behave. They think that some medication is going to heal it, but there's a spiritual issue involved. There's pride. There's hatred for the ways of Yahuwah. And so when people like us have this glow on us and we're trying to do the right thing, the ones that have this dark cloud over them, they're constantly going to be coming against us. So we got to be aware of that and expect it to happen. It's going to happen. So I got a good amount of people still asking to join this fellowship right now. And I know we're a little bit on pause, but they're asking to join. I don't know these people. I don't know who's coming in, trying to come into this fellowship with good intentions or not. All I can do is, to the best of my ability, screen them and ask them questions and to count the cost. Hey, if you wanna, join us or be my disciple, this is what it's gonna cost. But I still don't know if they're gonna be a Judas. I don't know. But that's part of the cost. So it is hard, Diana. This is very hard. This is a lot of responsibility. It would be easier for you guys to just be attenders of an assembly and I'll be the teacher. And every time we gather, I have a lesson for you. You listen, we say hi, we chit chat, and you guys go home. That's the easy way. I could have easily built my ministry like that if I wanted to. I could have easily just have straight teachings. Everybody else is just a attender. And, let me pick and choose who the strong ones are to be a leader next. And without really engaging people and asking you to do things and asking you to replicate and duplicate what I'm doing, submitting to authority, all that's just more responsibility. Who wants to do that? I got work, I got my life, I got my crazy cares of this world. I don't want more stress. Well, that's part of the cost. That's part of the cost. Go ahead.
And also to respond, I think that's part of the discipleship, though, would be learning how to respond to those who say, but the Torah is done away with, and bringing up those thought-provoking questions. Well, what did Messiah mean when he said that the law and prophets actually not done away with and I didn't come to destroy it? I think that is what eventually we're trying to build to, is to answer those questions so that everyone can be well-equipped, so that when those questions do come, we're able to go to the scriptures and say, but this, and this says otherwise, and break down the context, because it's true. That's what all of us have come across, which is those who just say it's done away. So there goes that. So I think that'll help in the discipleship.
Cool. So I'm going to end here. So let's just say we ended with Matthew 12. And I should have done that. I should have added that to our list. So really it's different passages within Matthew 12. But it leads up to verse 46, where now he's with this multitude of people. So can you see how it all comes together? So from verses 1, he was going through the grain fields on the Shabbat. And then after that, he went into the synagogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he healed. And these people were following him. And now I believe he's sitting with these people that have been watching him and been benefiting from his ministry. And then that's where this topic comes in and who's the real family here. This is because, you know, Yahusha mentions it, like a prophet is not accepted in his own household or his own town, you know. So a lot of us got family members that aren't following in this way. We got to be honest, like, who's our real family? We got people that are still, you know, trying to, here's the issue, I'm gonna just be straight up. People trying to walk in this walk while still trying to hold on to their family at the same time. Like, something about discipleship. I think if you haven't been paying attention, videos 1 and 2, we talked about how to be a disciple, you follow the teacher where he goes. And in this case, it's very important that if the teacher is having gatherings and teachings, that you be present, you know, that you be there for that. The ones who are not, because they have a family gathering to attend or they have something else, like, that's, you know, who's the real family here? Yahusha's sitting with the people that he would consider his real family, the ones that want to learn about Yahuwah and walk together and do this thing, you know, and spread this message, you know. But we get slowed down when holidays come up. Oh, I got family coming over. Oh, I got my family. I gotta drive them around, and it's like, okay, you know. I don't want to say okay anymore. I'm personally at a point where I want to raise the standard and say, look, let your family know that you have a real family. This is who, like, this should be our response right here, what Yahusha said. They're going to be like, oh, but D, your family's coming from Puerto Rico. You know, like, you got to be there. I'm like, who's my family? I'll tell you who my real family is. My real family are those who do the will of my Father. Those are my family. Those are my brother. That should be our response. So I will see you after our fellowship, after the assembly. I'll see you later. That's all. Other than that, I'm going to get feet on the word and understand the word. Or
do you want to know the gospel? Because right now,
yeah, pretty much. I mean, preach the gospel to him, right? You definitely want to do that.
We can get together, but you're going to hear the word right now. Okay. So
right. No, for real. But yeah, that's I really wanted to hit that. That's a real good. Think about it. They're pretty much strangers. These are people who just heard and just been experiencing what Yahusha's been doing. It's not like they've been with him for a long time. And he's calling them more family than his own biological relatives. That's pretty strong. I'll end with that. Ezzy, go ahead.
You know, when he says, let the dead bury the dead, if you think about in the end times and Revelation, when there's gnashing of teeth and there's all of this destruction that's coming, you know, you really do have to count the cost, because is being with family and the acceptance of family more important than salvation, than what's to come, than those last days when the ultimate judge is coming to, you know, destroy and to gather up those who have kept his law, who have learned his ways, who have, you know, newness of mind and are walking these things out. Like, your love for your family is not going to save them. It's just not. So to waste your time with, you know, this acceptance of family or whatever, I mean, I just keep hearing, let the dead bury the dead. I mean, it's kind of messed up to think that way, I guess, if you're thinking from a human perspective. But if you're thinking like the Father, he's not going to have mercy on those people. So we should be more convicted to share the gospel or to depart from those who are not trying to listen, and let the dust off our feet be a witness to them, or let this walk be a witness to them. More people have come to me asking questions and have said, I have this old spirit or whatever because of how I'm walking. And I'm not looking for any recognition to anyone. I'm looking for the recognition of my Father. So on Judgment Day, I pray that at least myself and my son are there and being caught up. I don't really care about anyone else. I care about sharing the truth, but I'm not getting caught up in these relationships, especially after the experience, you know, recently. We can't get caught up in that, because at times it can become a distraction. And Yahusha says, anyone who loves mother and brother more than me, they're not of me. So we have to choose this covenant over everything. We have to choose Yah over everything. And some things are going to be harder. If my son goes out when he gets older and he turns against everything I've taught him, yeah, it's going to hurt, but I cannot have that be a distraction, because Hasatan is very clever. Who knows? Who knows what relationship he may use to pull you out of this walk? It's messed up, but Hasatan, wickedness, evil is evil. So we have to have laser focus on this issue of salvation, having the faith and being able to walk this thing out despite whatever relationships crumble, mother, brother, even our own children. Unfortunately, we have to choose the Father over everything. So,
yeah, well said, Ezzy. Jeff, Sakaya, what you got?
Ooh, I got Matthew 16, 24, and 25. I think it is extremely apt. Do you mind if I read it?
Let's do it off record.
Yeah, that's cool. Matthew.
Hold on, let me end this recording, because we're gonna stop with the recording with Matthew 12. All right. So that was Matthew 12, and another thing again is these people that were healed weren't necessarily believers yet, right? So one thing we can take is healing, miracles, praying for people, casting out devils is something we should be doing, not waiting for somebody to be a convert and then we can pray for healing. So it's the healing and the miracles that might actually open their eyes, and the scales will come down for them to actually start believing in Yahusha and the Torah. So that was a tool. So Matthew 12, we'll end there. Shalom.